10 most fascinating medical miracles. Number 10. Near-vegetative man was back to life after stimulation electrodes were implanted into his skull. A man who was left in a near-vegetative state by a serious assault was able to speak and eat again. The severely brain-injured patient, who is now 38, was unable to communicate, swallow, or make coordinate movements for 6 years before doctors revived him from this minimally conscious state with a revolutionary therapy. Since his skull was implanted with electrodes to stimulate a deep-lying and undamaged part of his brain, he has improved so dramatically that he can now feed himself, brush his hair, and recognize and talk to his parents and doctors. Number 9. Paraplegic man suffered a spider bite and started walking again. A motorcycle accident almost killed David Blanchard 21 years ago. He was spared his life but was unable to move his legs. He was confined to a wheelchair for 20 years, but 2 years ago he was bitten by a brown recluse spider and was hospitalized for and spent 8 months in physical therapy. In therapy, a nurse noticed a spasm in one of Blanchard's legs and ran some tests. 5 days later, David was walking again. Number 8. Surfer mauled by a shark had his hanging hand reattached. 33-year-old Glenn Orgias was attacked by a great white shark while surfing at Sydney's Bondi Beach. He was taken to St. Vincent's Hospital with his hand hanging by a 3-centimeter piece of skin. Plastic surgeon Dr. Kevin Ho never expected that they would be able to reattach the hand, but given the patient's general health and the speed with which he was rushed into the operating theater made it a possibility that he could have his hand reattached. Dr. Ho said leeches were used as part of the effort to restore blood flow to the hand, and he is hopeful that Mr. Orgias will regain function in it. Number 7. Wife shot by husband got a new face. Connie Culp is a 46-year-old Ohio woman who has had the first face transplant in the US, and her new look was a far cry from the puckered, noseless sight that made children shrink away in horror after being shot by her husband. Culp's expressions are still a bit wooden, but she can talk, smile, smell, and taste her food again. Her speech is at times a little tough to understand. Her face is bloated and squarish, and her skin droops in big folds that doctors plan to pare away as her circulation improves and her nerves grow, animating her new muscles. Culp's husband Thomas shot her in 2004, then turned the gun on himself. He went to prison for 7 years. His wife was left clinging to life. She endured 30 operations. Doctors took parts of her ribs to make cheekbones and fashioned an upper jaw from one of her leg bones. She had countless skin grafts from her thighs. Still, she was left unable to eat solid food, breathe on her own, or smell. Then, in a 22-hour operation, Dr. Maria Semyonov led a team of doctors who replaced 80% of Culp's face.
The other day, we took her to the mall. A tender blessing. No one looked.
When we last talked, you said the Tim McGraw song was your favorite?
Oh, yeah.
Right.
Live like you was dying.
Live like you were dying.
Number 6. Boy recovered after orthopedic decapitation. Jordan Taylor was in a car accident that separated his skull from his vertebrae. There was no connection between the bones of the neck and the head. Doctors called the injury an orthopedic decapitation, and at the time gave Jordan a 1% chance for survival. The tissue may have been destroyed, but the faith of Jordan's family was intact. Word about what happened to Jordan spread to the family's church and other churches across the country. Jordan's mother says at one time she knew of at least 20 churches that were praying for her son. Dr. Roberts reconnected Jordan's head to his neck with a metal plate, screws, and titanium rods. 3 months after the accident, Jordan left the hospital and is now back at school. Number 5. Mother who had to choose to save one twin got to keep both after disconnecting blood vessels. Shannon and Mike Kimball faced an agonizing choice. Doctors told them one of the twin girls they were expecting needed to be terminated or both would die. Doctors at Swedish Medical Center had diagnosed Kimball's twins with twin-to-twin syndrome, or TTTS. It is a condition in which the twins are connected by blood vessels. One twin literally drains the life out of the other. Left untreated, there is an 80 to 90% chance that one or both will die. Shannon and Mike were struggling with the suggestion to terminate the weaker baby when the physician at Swedish, Dr. Kent Highborn, approached them with another option. He had made contact with Drs. Robert Bell and Michael Belford of St. Mark's Hospital in Salt Lake City. The Utah surgeons teamed with those at Swedish to perform laser surgery in the womb to cauterize the blood vessels that were connecting and slowly killing the twins. Number 4. Blind man got his sight back after having a tooth implanted into his eye. Martin Jones, a 42-year-old builder, was left blind after an accident at work more than a decade ago, but a remarkable operation which implants part of his tooth in his eye has pierced his world of darkness. He lost his sight after a tub of white-hot aluminum exploded in his face at work in a scrapyard. He suffered 37% burns and had to wear a special body stocking for 23 hours a day. He also had his left eye removed, but surgeons were able to save the right eye even though he was unable to see through it. At first, specialists in Nottingham tried to save his sight using stem cells from a donor, but the attempt failed. It was only when a revolutionary new operation was pioneered at the Sussex Eye Clinic in Brighton that he was given a chance to have his sight back. The process requires a living tooth as an implant, because doctors suggest there are chances that the eye would reject a plastic equivalent, so a canine, which is the best option due to its shape and size, was taken out of Mr. Jones' mouth. A patch of skin is then taken from the inside of the cheek and placed in the eye for 2 months, where it gradually acquires its own blood supply. The tooth segment is finally transplanted into the eye socket. The flap of grafted skin is then partially lifted from the eye and placed over its new sturdy base. Mr. Jones from Rotherham was able to see for the first time his wife Gil, whom he had married 4 years ago.
Okay, sit up, please.
You ready?
Yeah.
Oh,
Awesome.
yeah.
Are they beautiful out?
Okay. Yeah.
How much, like?
I can see, yeah.
See what
Really? Yeah.
Really?
1, 2.
Oh my God! Hi, Dad!
Number 3. Teen lived 118 days without heart. It was supposed to be a great day for 14-year-old Jana Simmons, who received a transplant to replace her enlarged heart. However, her dream turned into a nightmare when the new heart failed to function properly. Doctors had to remove the new organ, but without another heart available and with Jana weakened from the surgery, they had to come up with a stopgap measure: 2 artificial pumps that kept the blood flowing in her body for close to 4 months. Finally, Jana received another heart transplant, and it was so successful that she had a kidney transplant the very next day. Number 2. Teenage model had her body held together by 11 rods. Katrina Burgess, 17, was told by doctors she may never walk again after surviving a 70 mph car crash with a broken neck and back and a catalog of other injuries. But after being put back together with 11 metal rods and enough pins and screws to send an airport security detector into overdrive, Katrina was signed up by a modeling agency. Doctors inserted a rod from her hip to her knee in her left leg the day after she was admitted to hospital. It was secured inside with 4 titanium pins. The most risky operation came a week later. They sliced open her back and inserted 6 more horizontal rods up the length of her back to support her spine. A week after that, they inserted a titanium screw to support the break in her fragile neck. Only a day after the last operation, she was able to take her first steps. Astonishingly, 5 months on from the crash, the teenager has recovered to the point where she no longer even needs painkillers. Number 1. Window washer in coma after falling 47 stories woke up on Christmas Day. Alcides Moreno, 37, fell 47 stories from a New York skyscraper when a freak accident sent his window washing platform plunging to the concrete pavement. The accident killed his brother, who was working on the same scaffolding platform, and left Moreno in such a bad state that doctors could not risk moving him to an operating room. Instead, they operated on him in the emergency room, leaving him in a vegetative state for nearly 3 weeks. Finally, he showed signs of consciousness and spoke on Christmas Day. Less than a month later, he was discharged, with the expectation that he would walk again within a year's time. Considering that the death rate from even a 4-story fall is about 50%, Moreno's survival, thanks in part to some fortunate circumstances, is astounding.